Good day everyone, so Chloe here, one of my subscribers, has submitted some footage and she wants me to just sort of take a look at her sort of gameplay and give her some tips as to using her units and how she can best clear the Spiral Abyss. Now obviously this is going to be a much longer video, so if you're interested, stay tuned, there might be something you can learn, but other than that, this is just a video mostly for her. Right, so to start it off with, basically one of the immediate things I noticed about the videos and everything is that whilst the builds are fine, the order in which you're executing your abilities, Chloe, is kind of weird. So basically you start off with Zhongli and you start off with his sort of elemental skill, but Raiden is the one character here that's got the longest cooldown, and just like with Fischl, you always want to start off with the characters that have the longest off-field deployable. You always want to immediately start off with them, get them out of the way, and then you move through your other characters. So I would personally start off with Raiden and then go to Yai, EEE, and then my Zhongli sort of pillar for a bit of resistance rate, and then Kole, and then go Yai Miko, and then finally back to the Raiden Shogun. So I'll sort of show you how to sort of play that rotation. I think it will help you just layer your buffs a bit better and then get a bit of higher uptime between all of the effects that needs to be on field so that you can get the maximum value out of your Raiden and your Yai Miko. The other thing I also feel like is that Zhongli would perhaps be better on to the second half instead of Ningguang here, and I'll sort of show you now what I mean by that, and then perhaps slot in Sucrose here so you can get a bit of EM sharing for Raiden and for Yai Miko. And it's kind of important because a lot of people think you just put in spread and suddenly Electro does a lot, but you've got to understand the spread reaction is also dependent on your EM values that you have. So the higher your EM values on your characters, the higher they're actually going to sort of perform, or the higher the flat damage bonus buff that's going to be added to their attacks, and then that will then help them to do more damage. So it is definitely something that I think if you swap out the universal resistance rate for something like Sucrose, you get the Viridescent Venerate, like the 40% electro resistance rate, you get more EM, and I think that'll just help your first halves be a lot faster than just a generic 20% resistance rate on Zhongli. Using Zhongli on the second halves can have a lot more benefits than I think Ningguang for a couple of reasons. So when you're running like a Hyper Bloom team, you've almost got this problem where Kokomi wants to be on field, or at least she wants to contribute to some of the active damage, but Ningguang is also an on-field DPS, and this is the problem. If you replace, typically in Hyper Bloom, you want to replace someone like Ningguang with, say, Xingqiu or Yelan, so that you can have more off-field damage that will kick in. I think Zhongli being a replacement here would be very nice, because that universal resistance rate can help your Hyper Bloom damage, and also the damage that your Kokomi is gonna do with her Hydro, and of course the Ocean Youth Clam set as well. That's gonna be so valuable for the final floor with all of those Rift Hounds, because you're shredding their Hydro resistance, their Dendro resistance, and their physical resistance if you just move Zhongli here, and I think that'll give you much more value for this team than Ningguang. So let's just quickly take a bit of an example here. So this is what I did earlier today. So you can see I'm here at the Golden Little Wolf Lord and whatever, so he's going to summon his skulls, and immediately what I'm going to do with Zhongli, and you only need a Caesar Zhongli, is I'm going to plot his pillar sort of right here, and then I'm just going to sort of start dashing towards the other little skull. So you can see here, his pillar is going to tick in the background, take that thing out, and by the time you're here, that pillar is destroyed. You can use your Zhongli Elemental Burst to instantly destroy this pillar, and then you can immediately start rushing towards this pillar. It's just so quick. It'll be as quick as basically having Ningguang on the field, and then you can immediately go to middle, start casting all your abilities, ensuring like that your Traveler's Elemental Burst is up, Kokomi, and then you just get your abilities onto the field a lot quicker, and that'll help you defeat the Golden Wolf Lord just so easily. And so this is the things that I've noticed from your game plan, like the general strategies, and if you just follow this, I think you'll have a very easy time in the Abyss. So let's just quickly see how the gameplay looks, and then I'll sort of show you a couple of examples of improving it. Right, so one of the things that I notice is that you've got very long loading times, and the best advice is, and it's not a matter of pride, if it takes forever for an enemy to load in, just open the Adventurer's Handbook. He'll load in the background, and then you'll give yourself a much fairer chance at beating the enemy, because it's already 10 seconds, and it's just 10 seconds that's wasted on the clock that you really don't need to waste. So don't worry about it. Open Adventurer's Handbook, and once he spawns in, you can then start using your abilities correctly. So the big problem that you've had here is you started immediately with Zhongli, which means later on, especially if his pillar breaks, you would need to recast his shield. So this is why we don't generally build a DPS Zhongli, but a much more shield heavy one, so that his shield can last like a lot longer. And you'll sort of see this in just a moment. So you're doing the Kole thing, you activate the Quicken, she's going to attack, there's the Zhongli shield, and now you're going to go into Yamiko, not too bad, but now you've sort of started to, okay, so you're reapplying the Quicken, that's not bad, but this is the problem. You're now recasting Zhongli's shield, and then you're going to go and you've ignored what the enemy does. Now he flies up, and a big bulk of the damage that you would have done with Raiden is just sort of taken out, or just like gone. And this is the problem. The way in which you're layering abilities is not always that optimal, and even though you're doing all of the quote-unquote correct things, you've made sure that all of your totems are on the field with Yai, you've got the Zhongli shield, you've got the Kole Dendro, how it sort of played out later meant that you lost a bit of DPS. So let me just quickly show you what you could do instead with a team like this. So just quickly cancel that. We want to start off with Yamiko, and then of course use little Kole, and then we're not really going to play the second halves. But I think getting the order correct here will definitely save you some time. So immediately, you just want to start off, get the longest cooldown out of the way first. Zhongli, cast his E, go here with Kole, and now wait for the enemy. He's up in the air. Now I can sort of overlap my elemental burst time with him coming down, and now I can go to Raiden Shogun, and I can sort of beat him up and whatever. And you can see the Dendro aura there from Kole really lasted like a very long time. The other thing that you could do, and I think this is because you only have like a Caesar or Raiden, you could also perhaps weave in your Kole for just that extra bit of resolve on Raiden. So one of the things you could do is this again, do this, cast a shield now, here's a little Kole, let's see what the enemy does. Okay, he's very obedient, he stands still, go boom, 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 build a bit more resolve for Raiden, and now we can just sort of then smack the enemy, and hit, and he's going to go up in the air, and we wait, boom, charge attack, charge, and now go to Yamiko, and now we're going to go back to Zhongli, and now we're going to go this. So there's like an entire rhythm to playing this, and the next time you eventually go to Raiden, you can then just E and then Q and so on. So I do think the order in which you're playing is, whilst it does a lot of the things and layering the buffs correctly, it does mean that there are opportunities where you lose out on your shield strength and so on, and I think, yeah, if you just sort of work on small things like that, it can be a lot better. So as regards to PMA, I'm just going to sort of move on to like the next floor. We obviously now have this second half with this team, so you've done the correct thing here. You sort of casted, well, you can do the same little trick, but you cast Kokomi's Jellyfish. So cast the Traveler's ability here, and then you go back to your Kukushinobu, because remember, her ring is going to expire a lot quickly, and what you want to do is you want to get all your other cooldowns so that you have maximum uptime on her ability to sort of just trigger Hyper Blooms. And ideally what you then want to do is then go to your other Hydro units, which would have been in this case, or let's say Zhongli, and then you'd activate their abilities, and then you go to on-field Kokomi. Lol, I just had like a phone call, so I had to interrupt my own recording of this video. But in any case, so yeah, you basically get the gist of how you should be doing it. So the Traveler, yes, you want to first use her Q ability and then her E ability, or you can E, but you must then just immediately Q. And then yeah, I mean, this is pretty fine and so on. The only problem you can see here is Kokomi is now on field, but Ningguang is not really contributing anything, and this is where having an additional Hydro unit would have been like really valuable, or even someone like a Zhongli, because then you can get that Omni resistance shred, which is just very good. All elemental. I think it is all elemental. Does it include physical resistance shred? Did I speak a bit of nonsense earlier? I'll check a bit later on. But yeah, so that is sort of what you want to do, and then we can now go on to, of course, the next floor. So it's once again it's the same story. One of the interesting things with these little what do you call it, little cube things, is that you want to travel to the sides of them. Yeah, so you want to sort of travel here to the sides, wait for them to sort of come in, get them into a ring, ensure that you've activated like you have a quicken, and then you just use elemental burst, hit them all. It's the same sort of story as a bit earlier, and then you should have a very, very quick and easy time with this. It's now let's quickly go to a Golden Wolf Lord. Once again, just use the little trick, save a bit of time for reloading in and so on. One of the things we discussed in one of my more latest videos is the fact that you can layer your stuff, so you can be a bit gentler on your abilities, wait for him to go about 25%, and then once he falls back again down onto the ground, you do another 25%, but it's up to you to sort of test out what will be a good combination. But certainly when I looked at your team damage like a bit later on, you have more than enough team damage to sort of take him out, and I do think if you had Zhongli here for that extra bit of resistance shred, then the sort of time that you had here, you can see it was just like it's like almost. I think that difference could very well be the difference between just having Zhongli and not having Zhongli in this team. So that would be kind of my advice. Against the little big chicken, one of the things that I saw was that you sort of almost chased after it when it was in its like little aggro state. So let's just quickly skip forward. So when the little chicken is very, very aggro, run against the corner here, because what you want him to do is rush against the corner and sort of beat against the corner of the abyss, like the boundary, and that'll make it just so much easier. Because there was a point here, I can't remember when, I think it was here, where the chicken ran off into Narnia and then you chased it, and it's just like, look, if the chicken's gonna go away, just stand still, don't chase it, just stand where you are, because it's gonna 180 and come back to exactly where you are at, so you can use that time to cast some of your other abilities. But like I said, just better still stand in the corner and let it charge the boundary and just sort of slide off the boundary, and then you won't have to give up any of your real positioning and so on. So that'll be my tip, and then of course you should be able to then clear him out very, very quickly. And then finally, against the little wolf lords, this is all just about ensuring you have sufficient uptime and coverage. Once again, just keeping Kokomi as an on-field driver, and perhaps also trying to do a bit more charge attacks as well with Kokomi, to ensure that those little wolves that are outside of the jellyfish's little AoE can also still be tagged. That's definitely what I would do. And then the one thing that you could do is end prematurely here with Kokomi, and then also use Kuki Shinobu's Elemental Burst a bit more, because Cookie's Elemental Burst is almost like a very nice little stopgap measure for also triggering like a lot of the hyper blooms and so on. So that's definitely something that I would recommend. So yeah, I would obviously have had my Kokomi's jellyfish on the field first here, which is one thing you didn't do, and then trigger the Cookie's little hyper bloom, because that or like her Elemental Burst, because that would like help quite a lot. But once again, Ningguang is not adding much here, so the only thing you're really using her for was the Wolf Lord, and I think just putting Zhongli here would have been much better. But try these suggestions and let me know if that will help, or if the clearing times improve, and definitely do yourself a favor and see if you can perhaps like use the adventurous book to just wait for the loading times and just give yourself a bit of a more fair chance. But yeah, Chloe, that's been it for my review. Thanks for watching. Cheers.